Hello everyone, my name is Jen Vassal and today I'm going to do a painting demo for you. I know that a number of you had signed up for my painting class and unfortunately we had to cancel it because there was an accreditation issue. I think with doing it virtually there was some problem with getting accredited. So then the organizers and I discussed whether we should maybe make it so that the course is outside the time frame of the conference, but then it wouldn't be for credits. And we talked it over and decided it might be better just to wait till next year to do an accredited version, if that is even possible. And then I'll just plan to do something for everyone in this format. So this is just a video and you can follow along today. What I'm going to do first is show you what you need to do the painting that we're going to try to do. So first of all, I'm just going to show you the inspiration painting. So I call this a Drippy Floral. So Drippy Florals are a very forgiving way to learn to paint with acrylic paints. They're forgiving because, well, no one knows what it's supposed to look like except for you. So it is going to come a little bit out of your own imagination, although we'll use this one to inspire us. And there's not that much you need to know as far as, mixing colors. It's pretty simple. And I'll show you guys the techniques today. Okay, so what you're gonna need to do the painting is you're gonna need some sort of canvas. I would recommend nothing too big. You can do square or rectangular, it doesn't matter. Today I'm gonna use a rectangular canvas. And this one is, might be like 12 inches by 18, maybe a little bigger than that. It might be an 18 by 20. Actually, I think this is an 18 by 20. You also are gonna need a water spray bottle, okay? You're gonna need a container for water. Usually a yogurt container is good. You're gonna need some paintbrushes. So for this one, I think it's best if you have a big brush. So if you can only get one brush, get a big one for this one. But if you can afford to get a couple, I would get a big one about this size, something a little bit smaller like this size as well. And then maybe if you really want to do finicky details, you can get something even smaller. Maybe this size would be good. Okay, and then for paints, so today I'm going to use my golden paints. I was going to try to keep it to only a few colors, but I think it's going to limit the painting too much, so I'm just going to use the following colors. So you're going to need some titanium white. I'm not sure if I'm going to use black yet, but I'll say Mars Black at the beginning. Quinacrinone Crimson, this one's important for this one. You're going to need 2 shades of blue, so Ultramarine Blue and Pthalo Blue, but I need you to get the green shade. For your yellow, you can use cadmium yellow if you have it, but Hansa Yellow is nice because the opacity is really low and it allows you to layer the greens a bit more. And then Quinacrinone Burnt Orange. And last but not least, green gold. So this is a really nice color for doing leaves. And I like it because it's not too opaque. So again, you can get the layers. So we're gonna start out now. I'm gonna just show you what I did. I mixed my background color. And this is a nice palette. When you're starting out painting, you don't have to get one of these, but I really like this. It's sold at Opus in British Columbia. Curry's is a good art store in Ontario. They might sell something similar, but it's a meat packing tray. And I like it because the acrylic paint, when it dries, you can just peel it off. And then it also shows the color that you're mixing really nicely because it's on a white background. Okay, so the first color that I mixed, you can see this puddle of paint here. It's gonna look on the camera like it's kind of like black, but actually it's got a little bit of a purple brown to it. The way I made this color is I used the Pthalo Blue green shade, and I mixed it with a bit of my Quinacrinone burnt orange, okay? And when I say a bit, you can vary the color to whatever background you want. I'm looking for kind of a purpley brown. And in order to do that, you have to use, I would say probably 3/4 of the Quinacrinone burnt orange to 1/4 of the Pthalo Blue. But you can vary it as you wish. So I'm gonna start with this color and I'm gonna just do a quick wash. And by wash, I mean I'm gonna take water and I'm gonna mix it with my paint. And I'm gonna add a bit of my, I should have said this at the beginning. So gloss glazing liquid from Golden. This stuff is really important. So mix some of that with your paint. So you're gonna get this like puddle of kind of paint here, and it's gonna look kind of like this. And don't worry about it, just get started. So I want you to just take this paint, and one of the things that helps when you're painting is to kind of just turn your thinking brain off, okay? Some people, especially physicians, have a hard time doing this, but I feel that that's important. You can see as I do this, some of the blue is coming through, and I like that. I'm not gonna make it all the same color. So again, you want to turn your brain off. Sometimes listening to music when you paint can help do that. Other people, I actually like to listen to books on tape, or I also listen to podcasts as well. Okay, so, and you can vary the darkness, or what we call value of the color, by how much water you add. And I do think it's more interesting if you vary the value. So if you do some areas that are darker, you can see I'm just kind of coming back with my color here. And make sure that you get to the edges of the painting, okay? You don't want to have a little white spot at the top, so make sure you do that. Sometimes I get lazy and forget. Okay, so we're gonna let that just sort of hang for a second. And this is where you're gonna need something to go underneath your painting. I'm just gonna grab a piece of cardboard here. But you need something to catch the drips. So if you're doing this in your house, cardboard works well, or you can use a piece of styrofoam. Looks like I have that right now. Okay, so I'm just gonna put this here for a minute. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna spray this. So it's still wet, but I'm gonna spray with water. Okay. And you know you've done enough when you can see your color is kind of bleeding down. I'm living a bit dangerously here because I'm dripping onto my table. But that's okay, it wipes off. And you can kind of see how we're starting to get some sort of interesting shapes coming, colors coming. Okay, so I kind of want more drips over there. And I'm just gonna wash the paint out really in one area. So you can remove paint by squirting it closer. And then you're just gonna have to leave it for a minute. So at this point, I'm gonna let it just sit for a second. I'm gonna get some paper towel to clean up the mess that I'm making here. Okay, so the next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna mix some colors that we're gonna use to make our flowers. So the flowers in this picture are supposed to be roses, which is my favorite flower, but you can paint whatever flower shape you want. It's really not picky. So I'm gonna just take my styrofoam back now. Yeah, and word to the wise, before you start, maybe put like something under your canvas. That would be smart. Okay, so at this point, I'm gonna clean off my brush, and I'm gonna mix a few colors that I can use for my flowers. So when you make pink, some of you might remember from colors that you mixed in elementary school, pink is made of white and red. So the Quinacrinone Crimson that I have, I'm gonna take a blob of that, and I'm gonna add some pure white to it, and I'm gonna mix it. And you can see here I'm getting a really nice value there. It's kind of a medium valued pinky red. So to that I'm gonna add more white. And I'm gonna just take the white and I'm gonna put it in the corner of my puddle and make a new circle by mixing it like that. Okay, so what that does is it gives you another tone of the same pink. Then you take more of your white and you put it at the bottom and you do another circle. Okay, and that didn't really work out to be that different, so I'm gonna add more white. Okay, so you can see how there I have, at this point, more or less 3 different shades of pink, okay? And that's a pretty easy way to mix different colors. So I'm gonna just take my brush now, which is actually fully loaded with what I just did, and I'm gonna work wet and wet into my background. Wet and wet means it hasn't dried and I'm gonna get started. So on my inspiration picture, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 roses. Usually in paintings you want to use an odd number, but I'm just going to start in here and just kind of rough in where I want my roses to be. I'm not going to worry too much about it, but think about your flowers facing different directions. So don't have them all facing forward. Think of some of your flowers turning side to side. So I'm just going to use big brush strokes here and just kind of rough out where I want them to be. I might even do a bud. That could be a bud. And then something there. Maybe one down there. And you kind of want things to be what we call the rule of thirds in painting. So if you can take your canvas and divide it into 3 sections, 1, 2, like that, so you make 3 sections, you kind of want to have 1 section kind of empty and 2 sections full, or vice versa. You can have 2 sections empty and 1 section full. So I'm going to leave this bottom part open on purpose. And then again, you want the rule of thirds to go this way. So you kind of have more on this side, 2/3 full, 1/3 empty. So I kind of like how this is sort of following that so far. So I'm going to leave that for a minute. And I've got a lot of paint on my brush. I'm going to use this messy puddle of paint to just put a few more petals in. Now when you do rose petals, you want to just smoosh it and pull around. Smoosh it and pull around, okay? So smoosh and pull. Technical terms. Smoosh and pull. Okay, so that's actually starting to look kind of cool. So I'm going to rinse my brush off. And my background color has kind of almost completely disappeared, but that's okay. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to go back with that black color that I made at the beginning. I still have quite a bit on my palette. And I'm going to pick up some of that paint and I'm going to go and do some dark areas. So these are going to be the areas where the darkness or the light is not hitting, okay? So these are shadows. And you want to just kind of be, random about it. Don't think too hard. Try to turn your brain off and just look at it. And then stand back and kind of squint at it, and maybe should be some in here. Maybe I'm going to do it right up to that flower there. And I maybe want this corner to be more dark. Okay, so that's coming along. So again, I'm going to try to pick up however much paint I have left. The thing with acrylic paint is it dries really fast, so that's a good thing and a bad thing. It's a good thing when you're trying to do layers. It's a bad thing when you're trying to blend. So a lot of people get really frustrated with that, and I agree, it can be very frustrating. The way that you combat that is you can add that acrylic gloss glazing liquid to any paint, and it'll slow the drying time a lot. Okay, so now we're going to just roughen some of the greenery. So I'm going to just keep it easy for everybody. I'm just going to take the pure green gold, that's that light green that I told you to use there. I'm going to get a big dollop of that, and I'm just going to start working that in. So you can see on the inspiration picture here, I've got all these like little kind of green leaves and stuff. So I'm going to start doing that now. And to make a leaf, what you do is you push your paintbrush down, pull, and then like that. So you're going to smoosh and pull. Smoosh and pull, smoosh and pull. So you push down really hard, smoosh, and then pull. Okay, so that will make it a leaf shape. Now this is a very bright green. It might be a little bit too bright. That's okay. I'm going to take a bit of this as well and just kind of paint it into what is sort of the background a bit here. So I'm going to work it in where it might make sense. But I'm also not going to worry too much about it because, again, this is supposed to be fun. Okay. So now I'm going to take my green gold and I'm going to mix a bit of that with my Ultramarine Blue. And what that's going to do is make a darker green. More of like an army green. More of a rose leaf green. Maybe, I'm not sure if you can see that. So we're going to do the same process again with that. But I'm going to go back to some of my leaves and I'm just going to add in a stroke here of my darker color. Okay? So basically you're going to pick one side of your leaf and put that in. Okay. And then I'm going to come in and do a little bit of kind of flouncy stuff. This is meant to be like the other leaves as well. Okay. It's coming along. Okay, so now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take my greens and I'm gonna pick up some white. Now my white is already kind of mixed with pink here, but that's okay. I'm gonna take that, and what that does is it changes it to a lighter value of the same color. So now my dark green looks a little bit more kind of minty. You can see that. So that'll give me highlights. Oops. So now I'm gonna take that color, same brush. You notice I haven't changed my brush. I'm gonna go back and add in some highlights. Okay. And so that's looking kind of neat. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to do something that's going to scare a lot of you. So I'm going to take my spray again, and I'm going to do a spray again. But this time I'm going to be a little more controlled about it, and I'm going to do it just on the bottom green. If I do it above my flower here, it'll drip through my flower. Some people want that, but some of you may not want that. So it's up to you. So I'm going to just go ahead here. See, I just kind of obliterated that flower. That's okay. Okay. So I'm letting it, and I see here there's like not a lot going on here, so I'm just gonna, okay. So I got a lot of drips happening. That's okay. So I'm gonna leave that for a minute, and I'm gonna now clean off my brush. And what I'm going to do now is go back to my roses. So for the roses, to kind of make them come to life a bit more, what makes things look real is when you have variations of color. So flower petals are obviously a one main color, but then they have highlights and lowlights. The thing that a lot of people do when they're making darker colors that's a mistake is they add black. Sometimes that's the right thing to do, but usually it isn't. So remember with shadow, particularly in things like flowers, what you want to do is add a cooler color, maybe a blue to the color you have, or even a purple, and that'll make the shade darker, but it'll also communicate the temperature of it, and it'll make it look better. So not saying you can't do black, but I would say not usually the right idea. So at this point, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back. I've got a bunch of my white, which is sort of like all mixed together here, and I kind of actually am going to use that on purpose here. And I'm going to try to make the flowers look a little bit more real. So roses have like a little center, and then they have petals that kind of come around. So I'm going to take my white, and I'm going to just put a little center. Okay, so each one, there's my center. So that tells me what way the flower's facing. This one, it looks like the flower's facing that way, so I'm going to put my center that way. This one is going to be facing up. This one's going to face that way, and this one's going to face down, and this one's going to face this way. So I think the thing with flowers, it's really tempting to have them all looking forward at you. Don't do that, because it doesn't look that interesting, okay? So remember that you want to have them facing different directions. At this point, I'm going to get more white. So people that paint with acrylic paints might know this. At least I find I go through white the most. So okay, so I'm going to get just pure white. And now what I want to do is get a new brush, because I don't want anything on this brush to mess up what I'm going to do now. And I'm going to get this is a better one. So it's nice to use these kind of square-ended ones. They're a little bit better for control. So I'm going to pick up just pure white now, just white. And I'm going to come in and do some more on my flowers. So this is a smaller brush that allows you to do more detail, and you're going to come in with little C's, little swoops. Oops, I got rid of the green there. That's okay. Try not to pick up the green from your background. If you do that, you just paint over it. Okay, it's fine. Some of you have done the watercolor classes that Aaliyah's been teaching on the Canadian Women in Medicine Painters group. She taught us how to do roses, and her method for watercolor is similar to what I use for acrylic, is you're doing C's. So the C's are the petals, okay? So we've done a lot of our highlights, so now we have to do our lowlights. And we're almost done this painting. I'm not going to do too much demo today because I want you guys to just kind of play with this and be more free with it. So I'm going to take my puddle of paint that's probably almost dry here, that darker color, and I'm gonna add a little bit of my Ultramarine Blue to it. Maybe a little bit more. So you see how that makes kind of like a purpley color? But it's definitely a darker color than what I started with. That's what I want. So I'm gonna pick up that color, and I'm now gonna go back to my roses, and I'm gonna look for places in the rose where there might be a shadow. I'm gonna do my C's again. And I'm gonna put in that like that. Then I'm gonna take my pure Quinacrinone Crimson, that's the red, and I'm gonna come back now with that. So that's a color that we started with before we added white. And that is the pure color. And I'm gonna try to blend that into my roses. Okay, so this painting is definitely not done, but it's coming along. I'm just gonna now do a little bit of what I would call free painting. So what I'm gonna do is dab between my white and my pinks, and I'm just gonna kind of fill out my roses a bit. So instead of sort of saying, okay, I'm doing this now, I'm just gonna kind of look at each rose and see what I think it needs to make it look better. And as you practice this, you'll get better at it. And then the other thing to do when you paint is stand back. Oops. So stand back and have a look at it. It's actually looking pretty cool. So it's definitely not done, but I think one thing I'm gonna do before I end this video is I'm just gonna do a little bit more of my dark in the background. Because when I sprayed it, I lost a bit of that, and I do think I should retrieve that. So I'm gonna take again my Pthalo, I got a fair bit of it here, and my Quinacrinone Burnt Orange, and mix up a puddle of that paint again. This time it turned out a bit more blue, probably because I have to add more orange. So I'm going to take a bit of my Quinacrinone Crimson. I'm going to cheat. And I'm going to come back with this color. So, I mean, it doesn't really matter, but you need something to punch it up a bit. Okay, so I'm going to come back in with this, and this color is kind of neat. It's almost like a kind of a dark midnight blue. I'm kind of liking that, actually. And what you can do is be a bit strategic with where you put this. So usually having things go from dark to light is nice. So if we're going to make this the dark corner, and then you can paint into your flower a bit. You can edit the shape by painting this dark paint into it. I'm going to come over here, just put a bit of that in there. Okay. And I'm going to try to leave this side a bit lighter. Okay. So now I'm going to do the thing that scares me as well. I'm going to get out my spray bottle, and I'm going to spray it. Okay, so everyone, that's a Drippy Floral. I hope you had fun doing it with me. If you have any questions, please post them below, or you can message me on Facebook Messenger. And I'm gonna do another video probably later today, if I have time, to show you how to mix colors, because I think that's something that a lot of people have a hard time with. And I'll show you some of the paintings that I'm working on right now when I demonstrate that. Yeah, so I hope you enjoyed, and I really, really look forward to doing this in person next year. We will be doing that, I promise. I actually live in Langley, BC, so Victoria is very close for me, so I can bring all my supplies. All right, have a good day. Bye.